Hypoglossal nerve. Hey there, curious minds. Are you ready to embark on a tongue twisting adventure? Have you ever wondered how your tongue does the tango inside your mouth without you even thinking about it? Or how do you manage to gobble up your favorite snacks without choking? It's all thanks to an extraordinary cranial nerve called the hypoglossal nerve. Picture this nerve as the tongue's personal dance instructor, teaching it to salsa, tango, and cha-cha like a pro. Now I bet you're itching to know where this nerve comes from and how it wiggles through your head, right? Let's begin with a story. Once upon a time, in a kingdom called Brainland, there was a nerve on a mission to make tongue dance. The big problem was that the tongue refused to hit the dance floor. So the hypoglossal nerve whispered sweet somethings to the tongue's muscle cells, which means it passed on electrical impulses. And just like that, the tongue started to sway, twist, and wiggle. However, the real choreographers lived in a much larger castle within Brainland, which in anatomical terms we call the higher centers of the brain. The nerve, known as the hypoglossal nerve, was only the dance teacher who lived within the brainstem, specifically in the hypoglossal nucleus of the medulla oblongata. The hypoglossal nucleus is a collection of motor neurons located within the medulla oblongata, which is a part of the brainstem. Specifically, the hypoglossal nucleus contains the cell bodies of the hypoglossal nerve fibers, also known as lower motor neurons. The nucleus receives input via the upper motor neurons from higher brain centers, which help regulate the voluntary movements of the tongue. These upper motor neurons cross the midline to synapse with the lower motor neurons within the hypoglossal nucleus of the opposite side. The hypoglossal nerve then carries this information to the muscles of the tongue to coordinate complex and precise movements required for speech, swallowing, and other oral functions. Let us continue with the exciting story of how the dance teacher reached the tongue. With determination, the nerve journeyed through the corridors of the brainstem, navigating a maze of neural pathways. But the hypoglossal nerve's ultimate goal was located outside the brain's boundaries, and therefore it made its way out of the skull through the hypoglossal canal, a secret passage within the occipital bone. And behold, on the other side of this canal, it was welcomed by numerous structures in the neck. The hypoglossal nerve traveled between the internal jugular vein and the internal carotid artery, then passed deep to the posterior belly of the digastric and the stylohyoid muscles to reach the carotid triangle. Now, another triangle had to be crossed before the nerve reached its destination, and this was called the digastric triangle. Here the nerve stops to take a break, resting on the hyoglossus muscle. After moving just a little more, it reaches its destination, the floor of the mouth. It encounters the muscles of the tongue, the silent dancers awaiting their conductor. The job of the hypoglossal nerve is not a simple one, and therefore it decides to strengthen its team of dance teachers by sending out 4 branches: the meningeal branch, descending branch or descending hypoglossi, nerve to thyrohyoid, and muscular branches. However, only the muscular branch is considered a genuine part of the hypoglossal nerve, originating from the hypoglossal nucleus. The remaining branches originate from either spinal nerves, predominantly C1, C2, and C3, or the cervical ganglia. The meningeal branch is a small twig that supplies the meninges. As the hypoglossal nerve descends in the neck, it sends off a descending branch called descendens hypoglossae that provides the superior route to the ansa cervicalis. Through the ansa, it supplies the infrahyoid muscles except the thyrohyoid. The nerve to the thyrohyoid muscle also supplies the superior belly of the omohyoid and the geniohyoid. The main motor branches supply all the intrinsic and extrinsic muscles of the tongue, except the palatoglossus. Let us understand how the hypoglossal nerve contributes to the ansa cervicalis. The ansa cervicalis is not a single nerve, but a loop formed by the motor fibers from the cervical plexus, specifically the spinal nerves C1, C2, and C3. It primarily provides motor innervation to the infrahyoid muscles, which are involved in neck and laryngeal movements, particularly during swallowing and speaking. This loop is embedded within the anterior wall of the carotid sheath. The loop is the joining of two roots, the superior root and the inferior root. In this segment, we will only discuss the superior root and how it is connected to the hypoglossal nerve. Pop quiz. Let us now discuss what clinical conditions may involve the hypoglossal nerve. Hypoglossal nerve palsy occurs when there is damage or dysfunction to the hypoglossal nerve, leading to a loss of motor function in the muscles of the tongue that it innervates. This condition can be caused by various factors, including trauma, brainstem strokes, infections such as meningitis, or compression by adjacent structures like tumors or swollen lymph nodes. Clinical manifestations include tongue deviation, is where the tongue deviates towards the affected side when sticking it out due to weakness or paralysis of the muscles. This is due to the unopposed action of the genioglossus muscle. Articulation and pronunciation of words may be affected, leading to slurred speech. Weakened tongue muscles can also impair swallowing, leading to difficulties with eating and drinking. Long-standing hypoglossal nerve palsy can lead to muscle wasting, also called tongue muscle atrophy on the affected side. And with this, we come to the end of our session on the hypoglossal or the 12th cranial nerve. We hope you had fun learning with us.